I want to bring us back to the point that you were making about exploiting consumer behavior in a consumer internet business. You said that this is a time for soul searching in social media businesses, and you were part of building the largest one. What soul searching are you doing right now on that?
I feel tremendous guilt. I think we all knew in the back of our minds, even though we feigned this whole line of like, there probably aren't any really bad unintended consequences. I think in the back, deep recesses of our minds, we kind of knew something bad could happen. But I think the way we defined it was not like this. It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. That is truly where we are. And I would encourage all of you, as the future leaders of the world, to really internalize how important this is. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. The short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem. So we are in a really bad state of affairs right now, in my opinion. It is eroding the core foundations of how people behave by and between each other. And I don't have a good solution. My solution is I just don't use these tools anymore. I haven't for years. It's created huge tension with my friends, huge tensions in my social circles. If you look at my Facebook feed, I've posted maybe 2 times in 7 years, 3 times, 5 times. It's less than 10. And it's weird. I guess I kind of just innately didn't want to get programmed. And so I just tuned it out. But I didn't confront it. And now to see what's happening, it really bums me out.
The most popular accounts on Instagram have 0 content.
True.
They are teenager, usually girls, who eat bananas. 0 content. And they have 16 million followers. So we see, that's absolute proof. Here's the problem. Signaling invariably leads, in studies that we had, invariably leads to performance anxiety. In other words, signaling enhances anxiety. Invariably. There is no situation that signaling reduces anxiety or has no connection to anxiety. Okay. It always increases anxiety. It increases anxiety, of course, because you have to maintain not only prospective success, but retrospective success. Let me try to explain it in common terms. If your last post had 2,000 likes and your next post has 1,000 likes, you failed. Yes. So you are constantly competing against yourself, actually, not only against others and not only against the market, but against yourself. You have to exceed yourself all the time. This creates enormous performance anxiety. Actually, we discovered that 41% of freshmen who were on social media reported extreme anxiety, compared to 18% of freshmen in 1985. Right. So the number of freshmen who reported extreme anxiety tripled over this period of time, and all of them were on social media, and it was the only component that changed between the 2 dates. So social media did this. We can safely borrow techniques and methodologies from epidemiology and regard social media as an epidemic. As we study Ebola or similar things, we can study social media. If we do that, we discover some amazing new insights. And one of the most important new insights is what we call in epidemiology self-limitation. All viruses spread very fast and then stop. Why didn't the Black Death kill all the population of Europe? Why it stopped at half the population? Why didn't AIDS kill all of us? Why epidemics stop? Because viruses stop. Right. And why do viruses stop? Because they want to propagate. They want to continue to survive. If there were a virus who would have killed all the population, the virus would have died as well.
Right.
So we call this self-limiting.
Okay.
If social media are like viruses, and if we can use technologies then it means that we are coming right now to a stage of self-limiting.
Okay.
It means that the growth coefficient, the growth of social media will now stop. And the world will then be divided to two groups. The group of people who do not use social media and the group of people who use social media. And they are not geographical groups and they are not socioeconomic groups. And so we can't say, for example, the rich world will use social media, but not India and China. We cannot say rich people will use social media, but not poor people. We cannot say highly educated people will use social media. We can't say this because the profile of social media users, about 2 billion by now, is totally universal. I mean, there's nothing distinguishing, no distinguishing facet. The only thing that will distinguish these two groups, absolutely the only thing, is not gender, not income, not education, nothing. Only, are you using social media or not? This is a revolutionary thought because social media has a massive effect on psychology. In other words, there will be one group of people, about 2 billion, with one type of human psychology, and another group of people of about 5 billion with a totally different type of human psychology. Okay. And this is the first time, I think, that there is such a massive re-engineering of human psychology.
Martha Webb.
Hi, pleased to meet you.
How you doing?
Joe Frost.
Come in, Joe. Joe came into the house. She looked like a super nanny. You know, she had her hair pulled back in a bun. She looked very prim and proper.
Hi, pleased to meet you, Kathy.
Yes,
I'm
Joe.
Joe. How are you?
Good, great. Thank you.
Good.
When I first met Joe, I could tell right from the beginning that she was a no-nonsense type of person and that she was going to whip us into shape. This is Paige.
Hi, Paige. So pleased to meet you.
And that's Madison.
She's got other things on her mind.
Come on.
Hi, Joseph. Gonna shake Jojo's hand. Pleased to meet you. Good. So, all here together, which is absolutely wonderful. What I would love you guys to do is just to carry on as normal. I'm going to be a fly on the wall and just watch you as a family. Okay?
Okay.
As soon as I walked into the door, met the family, Arthur was like, bye.
I have to catch the landfill before it closes at 12.
Right, okie dokie.
Okay.
All right, then.
All right. Thanks.
Say bye, Daddy. See you later.
Bye now.
And there we were, me, Mum, and the kids. What happens for you at this time of the day?
Normally, I'm doing what I'm doing now, cleaning the kitchen or dressing the kids or doing something like that.
Oh, I'll let you carry on then with those dishes.
Okay. Thank you. Madison.
I think he's got that remote stuck to his hands. It's not going anywhere. Just follow me. Television on in here. Television on in here. Joseph's room. Television, television. Television. Not much really going on in this household. Where's the fun? Kids are bored. I thought there was going to be activities going on and the house was going to be full of energy with the kids running around, screaming. But it wasn't. It was really quiet. I mean, nobody's going anywhere. It's like lock up. I think Mum's at a loose end of what to do with the kids. So, Joseph, when you're not on the computer and when you're not playing video games, what does Joseph do? What do you do?
Play on my computer.
Trying to talk to Joseph is rather difficult because he's just like,
So I just confess that I text and drive. If I get a text, I'll look at my phone. It's definitely texting.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Snapchat. I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Is that like making Snapchats or watching them?
What, making them?
A, texting is like my main form of communication.
Boredom, honestly.
And B, well, nah, I guess no, it's really just A.
I've only never done it at stoplights. I've always been really good about it.
The passenger has a pretty important role driving now, where they're like, oh, red light, red light.
If someone that you like texts you, you're like, you can't just like let it sit there without just knowing what they said.
Because what if something exciting's happening or something happened?
Like, every time I do it, I think about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
So I'd like to, want to introduce you to a friend of ours.
My name is JC.
Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dash. Justin, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I just really quickly want to have a chat, tell you what happened to me. When I was 21 years old, driving home from my college graduation ceremony, driver on his phone was so distracted, he turned left into the intersection at a red light. Another car, an 18-wheeler, swerved to miss him and hit my family's car. And the resulting collision actually killed both of my parents. I spent 2 months in the hospital fighting for my own life, and then 2 more months in a rehab hospital, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again, learning how to dress myself and how to feed myself. I live with a partially paralyzed body. I didn't have my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married.
Having sort of met JC, because you look at JC and sort of give those same reasons.
Usually I use my phone to change a song on. I try to use it as little as possible, but
I'm not gonna look at my phone ever again.
Honestly, if I have been sitting at a red light, I'll glance down to see if my mom's texting me, but the people's lives that are impacted from something that is so stupid.
I can assure you on my drive home right now, I'm not going to use my phone and drive, and I'm not going to do it when I go to work tomorrow and the next day after that until, it becomes a habit, and that just doesn't happen at all.
I know this is hard. I'm sorry. It's hard for me too, but this is real. You have the power to really actually make a difference and do something about it.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Evan Brand, certified functional medicine practitioner and board certified holistic nutritionist, talking with you today about blue light toxicity. Now, everyone is exposed to blue light. We've got our phones, our TVs, our tablets, our laptops, our monitors, our bulbs, including the LED bulbs, which are the newest and latest and greatest light bulbs, which contain a lot of blue light. Now, we're going to talk about why we're seeing such a sharp increase in various types of cancers. We've got breast cancer, we've got ovarian cancer, we've got prostate cancers, and we've got massive obesity. More than 2 out of every 3 people in the United States are obese. Why is that? There's many factors, but one of the biggest and least discussed issues is blue light toxicity. So specifically, we're talking about a particular wavelength here, 400 to 530 nanometers. Now, it depends on who you ask on what's going to be the most dangerous spectrum in terms of blue light, but generally if you look at a chart of the various colors in our visible light spectrum, typically it's somewhere in the 400 to 500 nanometer range, which can be effectively blocked out using a blue blocker or even a red colored type of glass. So basically, here's what happens. I'm outside right now getting exposed to sunlight. My eyes have photoreceptors in them, just as well as your eyes do, and you're picking up on light. Now, when this sunlight is coming into my eyes, it's triggering the production of cortisol because it's daytime and I need to be up and having adequate levels of cortisol to get me through the day. Think of it as a smartphone battery. You always freak out if you start your day and your battery's at 20%. Well, I'm basically charging myself by using the sun to initiate this response via the photoreceptors in the eyes. So this is how it comes in. It hits the retina, then it goes to this part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. Now this is a tiny, tiny little wing-like part of the brain that's actually inside the hypothalamus, which is also a relatively small part of the brain. Then, through a long process, the signal gets sent over here to your pineal gland, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny gland that secretes melatonin. This is your 24-hour clock. Now, the important thing to remember is that when we're exposed to blue light at nighttime, we're throwing off this whole rhythm. We're picking up light when we're not supposed to at nighttime because we're on our phones, TVs, tablets, laptops, monitor screens, and bulbs, our LED bulbs, or any other type of bulb that has blue light. We're getting that light signal at night. So we're telling this whole system here, it's daytime. What happens? You get the suppression of melatonin. Now in the beginning I talked about low melatonin being linked to breast, ovarian, prostate, and other types of cancers. There's plenty of research, and I'll link some of that below, that nighttime nurses, for example, have a much higher rate of breast cancer. Their circadian rhythm's completely thrown off. They're in a hospital setting under fluorescent lighting, which is a massive source of blue light, therefore suppressing melatonin. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. Melatonin fights cancer. Now here's a little process that T.S. Wiley elaborates on in her book called Lights Out, which is one of the best books on this subject. And here's how she wrote it. It's going to be tiny, so you probably can't read it, but I'll read it for you. Long days, so this is artificial light at night. Long days means that winter is coming. If winter is coming, then we need to store our body fat. If we need to store our body fat for winter so we don't freeze to death, then we become obese. So basically, we're not getting to see fall. We're not getting to see winter. There's a bunch of robins fighting over here. The joy of being outside. When we have these long days, we're never getting fall and we're never getting winter. And this is the real issue.
A study in Sweden found that Swedes who talked over cell or wireless phones for over 25 years were at 3 times the risk of developing glioma, a brain tumor that is often malignant, than those who used them for less than a year. And in March, a large-scale lifetime study of lab animals confirmed the link between cell tower radiation and cancer. The animals were exposed to levels legally permitted by the United States Federal Communications Commission. I discussed these studies with Dr. David Carpenter, director of the University of Albany's Institute for Health and the Environment.
They show a very significant increase in glioma and glioblastoma only on the side of the head where you use the cell phone regularly, and increasing with risk the longer you use it. They also have some evidence that the younger you are when you start to use the cell phone, the greater the risk.
Carpenter said these risks can be avoided by using the speaker function or an earpiece and keeping the phone a short distance away from all parts of the body. But the 5G rollout will effectively expose the entire population to dangerous effects.
The rollout of 5G is very frightening because what this is going to do is place a mini cell tower every 300 meters along every residential street in the country. And that's going to mean that nobody is going to be able to escape the radiation that comes from those 5G devices. If you walk down the sidewalk, if you live in a house there, you're going to be continuously exposed.
Countries like China, Italy, India, and Russia have far more stringent regulations over cell tower radiation than the United States.
Our regulators, dominated by physicists and engineers and not health effects people, ignore all of that evidence and therefore have standards that are totally unrealistic and out of date.
I went from using it, or what I thought was using it as a powerful tool to do my academic work, to communicate and relate to people, to abusing it. And using it, or abusing it to fix my experience of life, to numb the pain, and to make the suffering go away. And this is what I used to do it, was technology itself. Now, I'm not a neo-Luddite. I'm standing here and I have this computer here and I didn't print anything out, and it is still a powerful tool, but there is a way in which bringing consciousness to it and mindfully choosing not to use technology or use as little as possible, I find truly serves me. I won't do that anymore. I'll use my willpower and just go and do that. And this is largely what distinguishes addicts from non-addicts, is that didn't work for me. I went and said, oh, I'm not going to do that, but that misalignment, that fear was still present, and so ultimately I said, oh, I want to use that thing again to make myself feel better. And my work with other addicts is bearing this out as well. And what I ask of them, which is part of what I've asked of myself, is to attempt to take a fast. Right? Whether it's a 24-hour fast and using, there's a lot of tech Sabbaths, is often a thing, is something that's coming more and more, or at least set a certain kind of abstinence so you can experience what it's like to try and set this boundary. Like alcoholics trying to do controlled drinking. Give it a shot and see if it's something that works for you. Which really transitions says, okay, now we're at recovery. Right? So if you've identified that there's a technology addiction within you, then there's probably, we start looking towards solutions and what we can do with that. So the other side of it, and another way to understand that, is when self-sufficiency fails us and when our tech shadow is just too dark. Right? There's too much there, and we have to look beyond. So the other side of this is the psycho-spiritual solutions. And I've started research and looking into adapting different psycho-spiritual models, especially 12-step traditions, because they do an excellent job of community building and then also specific steps you can work to. Because fundamentally at the bottom of any addiction, and I believe this is specifically or explicitly an addiction, at the bottom of this is a spiritual misalignment. I can do everything I want. I've set locks on the computer. I've given people passwords to say, don't let me on this thing, right? But this is the antidote. This is the way in which medicine just treats the symptom. This is the same thing. There's a fundamental misalignment. And here lies the opportunity as well.
Did not try. Those of us who went through the January consecration fast, if you notice all the things were pulling at you as we sought to reach those 30 days. You're seeking to hold on to God's hand. You're holding on to the goals we wrote down. The goals we wrote down that we're fasting over. We stood fast on the things we wrote down on our list that we were fasting and praying for throughout the consecration fast. And we got all kinds of temptations. The body was crying out. The mind was crying out. Things in the world were crying out, trying to pull at us to take our focus off the fast. But when we got the 30 days, we were shouting and singing, and we were stronger. And we were just praising Friday. Amen. Amen. So now we understand what the 40 days is about. Why are we doing this? To get closer to the Lord and to rebuke the devil's every turn. Now, what we're fasting again, the thing that we're picking, like we picked before in this consecration fast, is whatever you're fasting on is a sacrifice. If what you're fasting on is too easy, it's not a sacrifice. If you give up something for 40 days that has no problem, it's easy to do, that's not the thing you're focusing on. It's something in your life that's trying to control you, trying to pull at you, trying to keep you from getting somewhere. Whether it's food, whether it's Facebook, whether it's social media, whatever it is, you have to do a self-evaluation. What is it in your life that you feel you need more control over? And that's what we're implementing into the fast.
Thank you.